What if I told you that the entire philosophy of a nation with over 1 billion people could be found on a single page? Well, that's the incredible power of the Preamble to India's Constitution. You know, it's not just some formal introduction. It's often called the nation's soul. It's promise to every single citizen. So let's break down what that promise truly is.
One of India's most brilliant legal minds, N.A. Palkhivala, gave us this absolutely perfect analogy. He called the Preamble the identity card of our Constitution. Think about it. Just like your ID tells someone who you are in a single glance, the Preamble tells us the fundamental identity and the real character of the Indian nation.
So that's the big question, isn't it? What kind of core information is packed into these powerful 80-something words? What promises does it make? And, maybe most importantly, who gives it the authority to make them in the first place? It's time to dig in and find out.
Okay, so how do we decode this powerful statement? The best way to do it is to look at it like a blueprint, one that's made up of 4 core ingredients. Each one of these ingredients answers a fundamental question about what India is and what it promises to be.
First, and honestly, this is the most important part, where does all the power come from? The Preamble declares it right at the beginning, loud and clear. We, the people of India. Not a king, not some foreign government, but the people themselves. That is the source of all authority. Next, it defines the very nature of the Indian state, lays out its core objectives, its goals, and finally, it gives us the date it was all adopted, November 26, 1949.
All right, let's zoom in on that second component, the nature of the state. The Preamble uses 5 very specific keywords to define India's character. And let me tell you, each one was chosen with so much care and they are absolutely packed with meaning. First up, sovereign. In simple terms, this just means India is its own boss. It has the absolute supreme authority to manage its own affairs, both inside the country and out. It can acquire new territory or even give up a part of it, all without needing to ask permission from any other country. It's a completely independent state. Simple as that. Next, socialist. Now this word, which was added back in 1976, can be a little confusing for people. It doesn't mean state-controlled communism like you might think. Instead, India adopted its own unique brand, democratic socialism. This basically means a mixed economy, where both public and private sectors can coexist, with the main goal of knocking down inequality and making sure everyone's welfare is looked after. Then we have secular. And just like socialist, this was also officially added in 1976. But the spirit of secularism was woven right into the Constitution from day one. It declares that India has no official state religion. But, as we're about to see, the Indian idea of secularism goes way further than that.
And this is what really highlights the unique flavor of Indian secularism. You see, unlike the Western model, which often demands a strict wall of separation between religion and state, kind of like a negative concept of just keeping them apart, the Indian concept is a positive one. The state doesn't just keep its distance from religion. It actively works to ensure equal respect and support for all religions. It's a really key difference.
The word democratic confirms what we already talked about. The ultimate authority, the supreme power, rests with people. The government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. But how do the people actually use this power? Well, India chose a pretty specific type of democracy to make that happen. So as you can see here, in a direct democracy, like you might see in parts of Switzerland, citizens can literally vote on laws themselves. But in an indirect, or what we call a representative democracy, which is what we have in India and the US, we elect representatives, our members of parliament, and our MLAs to make those big decisions on our behalf. And finally, republic. This is such a crucial distinction. It means that the head of state, in India's case, that's the president, is an elected official with a fixed term. The position isn't inherited. This is in direct contrast to a monarchy, like the United Kingdom, and it means the highest office in the entire country is open to any citizen. Pretty amazing. Okay, so we've established the character of the Indian state. We know what it is, but what's its purpose? What's the whole point? Well, the Preamble now shifts gears from defining what India is to outlining this grand vision of what it promises to do for every single one of its citizens. The very first promise is justice, and it's not a simple idea, it's a 3-dimensional concept, drawing its inspiration from the ideals of the 1917 Russian Revolution. It promises social justice, which means no one gets discriminated against. It promises economic justice, to try and narrow that gap between the rich and the poor. And it promises political justice, making sure every single citizen has an equal voice and equal access to power.
Beyond justice, the preamble secures two other huge pillars, ideals that were famously championed during the French Revolution: liberty and equality. Liberty isn't just about being physically free. It's the freedom to think what you want, to speak your mind, to believe what you want. And equality is there to make sure no single section of society gets special privileges and that everyone gets a fair shot at success.
And this brings us to how all these ideas are connected. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the architect of our Constitution, powerfully warned that liberty, equality, and fraternity form an inseparable trinity. You just can't have one without the others. Liberty without equality just leads to the domination of the few over the many. And equality without liberty? Well, that kills individual initiative. They have to exist together for democracy to actually work.
Now, you might be thinking the preamble is just poetic prose, but it's so much more. Its legal status, its very place inside the Constitution, has been the subject of intense debate in the Supreme Court, and that has made it a truly living, evolving part of our legal framework.
Just look at this journey. It's kind of wild. Back in 1960, in the Brew Bar Union case, the Supreme Court said, yeah, the preamble is a key to the minds of the makers, but it's not technically part of the Constitution. Then came the historic case of Polity case in 1973. This one completely flipped that earlier decision on its head. The court declared that the preamble is, in fact, an integral part of the Constitution. And this was later reconfirmed in 1995, cementing its foundational status for good.
But the 1973 case did something even more profound. It gave us what's called the basic structure doctrine. This is a brilliant legal concept. It basically means that while Parliament can amend parts of the Constitution, including the preamble, it can't alter or destroy its fundamental features. It can't get rid of things like secularism, democracy, or the federal structure. This doctrine acts like a constitutional shield, protecting the very soul of the document.
So, you see, the preamble is far more than just a historical document. It's a living promise. It's a benchmark that the nation has to constantly measure itself against. It lays out the ideals of the nation we still aspire to become. And that, of course, leads us with the most important question of all. How well is that promise being kept today?